Welcome to the Red Rose Film Club, a movie podcast that picks apart movies from the viewpoint of the political left. We love deconstructing movies almost as much as watching them, and wanted to share our conversations with our liberal, leftist, socialist, communist, Marxist, and Leninist friends. Hi, I'm Craig, and I'm with...
Hey, I'm Hal. So, Craig...
Yes.
What kind of pop culture are you getting into these days?
A lot of stuff. First off, I want to say kind of pop culture adjacent, but I also saw that you posted online that you were there. I did something I have not done in like 15 years or more.
Where was I?
Went to an FSU football game.
Oh, indeed. Yes.
It was fun. I have been out of the college football lifestyle for a while and not caring or going, and then I got a friend that on Friday asked me if I wanted to go and had free tickets, so I went, and it was fun. It was really hot.
It was very hot. I also I can tell my age in many ways.
Yeah.
But one of them is every time that they would show young men in the student section who are dressed in squirrel onesies, because our best player, one of our best players, is a wide receiver named Squirrel White.
Which is the best name in football.
Yeah, it's an excellent name, unparalleled name. But it was so hot that every time we would cut to them, like literally impulsively, my first thought is like, are you guys drinking water?
Get water. Yeah.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
So being old
it
rocks.
Was fun. Did you know that Jake Paul was there apparently?
I did after the fact. Yes.
I'm not sure why, other than he's apparently bought property in Bainbridge, Georgia. Which
I think he's
nearby.
living in Thomasville, Mike said.
Cool.
Which makes sense. A lot of WWE folks that are adjacent to WWE end up living, broadly in like a 6-mile radius from Orlando. So I guess from that perspective, it makes sense. Yeah. Does Georgia have an income tax?
Yeah, I'm certain that.
Interesting. Honestly, that's kind of shocking to me, because I would think that you would just live in Florida then if you're a man of that politic.
Yeah. And that look. He's got a Florida look.
He does. He kind of has a Florida Bama Shore look, really, if we're being honest. He should be on the other side of Tallahassee, Man,
I
down that
watched
way.
That show when it first came out. My wife and I always have this like inside joke. It's not even an inside joke, but like there's one part. It's not even a funny story on the show. It's actually quite tragic in that like one of the person's family's members dies or something, and the father has to call to like let them know. And the way he answers the phone is the funniest thing. Is the guy's name is Cody, and when he answers, the like dad goes, "Cody, this is Diddy. Cody, this is Diddy." So like every time Jess and I will pick up the phone, "Cody, this is Diddy." But anyways.
And then proceeds to unload like the most depressing news possible.
Yeah, if it didn't come with that part, it would be way funnier. But so one of the weird things that I've watched recently is a great internet video about everyone's favorite topic, stand-up comedians. But do you know of this YouTube channel called Elephant Graveyard?
I do not. I saw that this was posted on the TrueAnon Reddit, but didn't watch it because I don't watch YouTube videos that aren't forced upon me.
Yeah, it is, and true.
Or art music videos.
I get it. That definitely makes sense. He's a good one. He's like a video essayist that is also very funny and like sarcastic and sardonic in a way that is very entertaining to me. But he did a like 85-minute video called Comedy Jonestown, How Comedy Was Destroyed.
I could watch a movie.
By an anti-reality doomsday cult. And it is basically a video talking about like Joe Rogan's detrimental influence on both comedy and the culture at large, but all through a like extended analogy between the like frankly vast similarities between Joe Rogan and Marshall Applewhite, the head of the Hell Bop cult. I forgot what they were called.
Oh,
Heaven's Gate. Yeah. So it is quite funny. Like just like the way Joe Rogan talks now is
the thing I want to say I can't say on wax.
Is very
so I think you can take the implication.
But it is a hilarious video, and it's a good like send up of the modern terrible state of like stand up comedy.
I will say it does crack me up that a lot of those guys in like recent months, year, whatever, have been like, man, Austin, Texas sucks. I hate living
I know, that's
here.
been so funny.
I need to move back to LA.
Well, okay, sorry, not to get sidetracked on like all the terrible comedians I follow online, but another great thing that's been happening with them is the one, like there's a few good comedians that still exist. And I think one of them is Mark Maron, who's like, his podcast I don't listen to that much anymore.
He's definitely trying. I'll say
but
that.
He has been on a fucking tear of going on podcasts and just talking shit about Joe Rogan and how it's like, he is bad for comedy and bad for the world. And the one that is like really making the rounds, he's like, okay, you did it. Trans people have no rights. Now what? You're still going to keep doing the joke? Where he's like basically like pointing out like, what did you want from this? You got everything you wanted and you're still complaining. But he's been great. It's been really funny. Yeah,
I mean, I love a curmudgeon. So, and especially a curmudgeon that's not
a righteous
piece
curmudgeon.
Of shit.
Yeah.
So Mark Maron will always,
yeah.
so long as he maintains that. Also, Glow is one of my favorite TV shows ever and continues to break my heart. I think if you go in knowing that there's not further seasons of it, it's not as if it totally just like falls off a cliff in the sense that there's zero resolution.
Yeah. But clearly,
I was just very heartbroken by the promise that it would return, the initiation of filming a new season, and then Netflix going, actually, we've decided not to fund this anymore. So it's not even just that they concluded it and said, we're done here.
Yeah.
Another, obviously more minor, but death of the pandemic, But what else? Anything else you want to raise?
Because the state of the world's not messed up enough, I rewatched David Simon's We Own This City, the HBO series. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh,
I mean, I know who David Simon is, but
do you know what it's about?
I do not.
It's so good. It's Baltimore again. He did The Wire, but this is based on a true story, based on the Baltimore Gun Trace Task Force, who were this group that were kind of like the renegades, the bad boys of Baltimore that were like cleaning up the streets. They were tasked with busting up gangs and getting guns off the streets. And they were just running a goddamn gang of their own, like straight up just getting intel from informants and then like doing their own armed robberies of their homes and shit, amongst like many, many other terrible things they were doing. That culminated in a bunch of them being arrested and a fairly infamous story of one of their detectives, Sean Suter, who was going to testify against them in a grand jury in a way that would implicate himself. Shot and killed himself on duty and staged it like a like he was shot by a suspect or something. Yeah, which is still a unsolved case with the Baltimore PD, even though everyone has figued out. Knows exactly what happened with it, but
this harmonizes a bit with something I'm going to talk about. So I definitely will be putting. Now, I'll be real with you. There's no universe in which I'm watching a television show while football season is happening, because what little TV time I can claim is
football
going to be dedicated to movies. But I'm going to add it to the list.
It's good. And John Bernthal plays the like ringleader of the. Did I miss you
like
or hook
him.
you?
No, okay, I like him a lot.
I do too. I feel
he's quite good at playing a cop.
And this one is like, he is the quintessential, like has only been ever told you're the best ever. Like he is playing a guy that feels untouchable, like beyond untouchable. And it's really good.
You have sold me. I really like his Punisher.
I do too. Yeah.
So I will put it on the list.
And then today, actually, I saw this movie. I went to a training for work. It was a Holocaust education workshop, and they showed a documentary that we then like talked about called Defiant Requiem, which is a really
sounds like an AI created title. Like
it was in 2012.
Those two words together.
Well, it'll make sense in a second.
Okay.
So it is about a guy named Raphael Schechter, who was a prisoner in Terezin, which was not quite a concentration camp and not a ghetto either. It was kind of like an in-between of the two.
It's like a work camp.
Yeah. And he was a pianist and a composer that, because it was not quite a concentration camp, not quite a ghetto, they still had some possessions and things like that. So he was able to get a piano and basically assemble 150 other Jewish prisoners and the only music he had was Verdi's Requiem in Latin. So he teaches 150 of these prisoners to perform Verdi's Requiem in Latin, and like the Nazis are like asking him to stage performances of it, and unbeknownst to them, he changed several of the words and the lyrics and to make it more of like a song of defiance to the Nazis. And it kind of culminates in the American Red Cross did like what essentially ended up being a propaganda visit for the Nazis, where like they brought people into Terezin to tour it, and like the Nazis had staged everything, like look how happy everyone is, and included a performance of this group's performance of Requiem with the changed lyrics in Latin, basically condemning the Nazis. It's a really cool story, and I mean, the bummer of it is that Raphael Schechter died in a death march in 1945, like 1 month before liberation, and of the 150, I think more than 100 of them ended up in like Auschwitz or Dachau. So kind of a bummer, but kind of a really cool story too. It was like about how art and music can be used as like tools of defiance or whatever.
Right, artistic resistance is meaningful.
But yeah, it was really cool. And then the last two things I want to talk about is I just love like folk horror in general, and I feel like we're getting a great like resurgence of, I don't know, like neo folk horror, where I don't know if these necessarily count, but I'm counting them.
Yeah, I was like, when I saw this, I was like, I saw your title and I was like, interesting. And then I looked below and I was like, I don't know that I would consider either of those two things in that category. I guess so. I'm curious to hear kind of your conceptualization. I've been thinking about that too, but like folk horror, I feel like is a lot of like, I don't know, like a witchy ritual stuff tied to a place or I don't know. I'm having a hard time defining it now, but I do feel like both of these qualify somehow. I feel like Weapons is the more obvious because it's witchy. I'm trying not to also give away too much of what Weapons is about. But all that to say, I saw Weapons. Did you see Weapons? Indeed.
Did you like it?
I did.
Yeah, it was awesome. What is the woman's name who plays Gladys?
Amy Madigan.
Yeah. What has she been in?
I mean, most notable to me, because this is a mainstay of the Gentili household, is Field of Dreams. She plays the wife in Field of Dreams. Okay. But I mean, she has been consistently working for decades, just usually not in a like starring role.
She's great in this and so creepy and weird. And then the other one I saw is Together. Have you seen Together with?
I did not. I decided that I was going to wait to watch that on streaming. I mean, I love body horror, and I'm definitely interested in like romance, love, sexual relationships that are wrapped up in some kind of fraught dynamic that's being worked out through, the metaphor of horror. But there were some mixed reviews, and I was like, I don't know that I need to be spending time in a theater with this one. Yeah. What did you think about it? I
liked it a lot. I love body horror stuff as well, and I like when a movie's just really audacious and like kind of goes for a big ending or a big like finale. And I think both Weapons and Together really go for broke with the endings.
Yeah, the Weapons ending is really what cinched it to me as a quite enjoyable picture, as just really balls to the wall. Insanity. I will say, on the matter of Weapons, and on the balls to wall insanity of the end, I read a Rolling Stone article yesterday that the makeup artist that did Drewski's most recent shenanigans, where he pretended to be a white redneck at a NASCAR race, that makeup artist is who did Weapons.
That's awesome.
Isn't that sick?
That's great.
So I was like, this woman is a genius.
By the way, Matt Walsh thinks that he gets to do blackface now because of Drewski. So just keeping tabs on what Matt Walsh is doing.
I'm thinking that Matt Walsh probably thought that he could do blackface before that.
He's probably already tried it.
Yeah. We're just waiting for the Trudeau pictures to come out,
Matt Walsh as Trudeau doing blackface. That's how he gets away with not being in trouble for it.
Midwestern Thunder.
I do have one other thing that I wanted to ask, because I watched the first episode of it, and I want to know if you've watched it.
Okay, I think Alien I can Earth. Anticipate. So I have watched the first 2 episodes, and then I fell asleep while watching the third one. Not a commentary on how I felt about it, and I have not just had time to dedicate to catching up to it. I definitely will. I quite like it. I like some things that are different than other alien incarnations that I like a lot is some discussion of companies outside of Weyland-Yutani and kind of painting a broader picture of the economic landscape.
Like a larger battle between warring companies or whatever. Because the main one is not one we've ever heard of before, right?
Right. The guy, the youngish kind of the Spitfire. Destiny. Yes. Kind of looks like Destiny. He does kind of look like Destiny. Or like the guy who played Finding Netherland, Freddie High something, I can't remember.
Oh, Freddie Highmore?
Highmore. He kind of looks like.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying he was in that. I was like,
no. That guy kind of looks like that actor a bit. So I like that a lot. I like that we see some other alien life forms.
Yeah. Oh, that eyeball.
The
thing.
eyeball.
What the hell is that thing?
So cool. It's again. I don't need to fucking beat a dead horse, but I just have a hard time with serialized television that is that long in terms of dedicating time to it, because it's just like it's not done. Like I'm like
it to be a self-contained hour.
Yes,
and 45
but also
minutes.
I do not like to binge. Like there's not a point in my life right now where I'm sitting down and watching 6 hours of TV.
See, I have been a lot. And I've left them off, but I've also watched all of Severance.
The second season of Severance is one I need to revisit. I loved the first season.
I'm with you,
The second season started and I was like, work is a major source of stress in my life right now. I cannot sit down and watch a show
about how stressful work is.
Like I found it to be evoking emotions that I was not interested in being evoking 100%. In the context of my TV viewing. But yes, what did you think about the episode that you watched of Alien
I loved it. I thought it was super fun. I'm stoked. I think the setup is pretty cool, that it seems like they're just going to be xenomorphs loose in the world.
I'm really excited to see the implications of where they take that. I will say, I think I've maybe discussed this on the pod before when I read, I've read many novelizations of the Alien universe, but one of them that I read, there is a Church of Immaculate Conception that develops, which is like a religious movement around the xenomorph. Like people begin to worship it as the figure as a god and actively seek out becoming imprinted upon and implanted. So I'm hoping that we see something that goes kind of in that direction of humans that develop like a pathological relationship and spiritual relationship with the creatures. That's like kind of my hope for the show long term.
That'd be dope.
Is that we see some of that from the novels, which are not well written. So I don't advise unless you really, really love the Alien series like I do.
What about you? What you been reading and watching?
Yesterday I finished Seth Harp's new book, The Fort Bragg Cartel. Seth Harp is a journalist I've been following for many years, and I quite like. I think he's currently like an associate editor for the political section of Rolling Stone. A lot of his work's been published in Rolling Stone, but not exclusively. He's very interesting because he is a veteran himself of, I think, the second Iraq. Well, for sure. So he refers to the Iraq War as being 3 parts, and I think he was in the second. So he also has a little bit of, I'm not going to say that he's conspiracy minded, but he just he pays attention to power elite networks and like parapolitical implications.
Conspiracies.
Yes, of the work that he does. And the genesis of this project is in like 2018, 2019, 2020, there was a spate of very extreme murders and suicides in Fort Bragg or in the surrounding areas that were getting some news coverage, and including an instance where a paratrooper who had been stationed at Fort Bragg went and did LSD with some other cadets and ended up dead and decapitated.
Whoa.
And like they did not solve his murder. That murder, by the way, is still not solved to this day. But so I had been clued into him before those things started happening, but then he started writing a lot about Fort Bragg. So I've been following him for a while anyway, and he last year announced that he was putting out a book gathering a lot of these writings together. And so I pre-ordered it. It came out in very late July. And then I read it.
Oh, so this is not fiction.
No,
this is all. I thought you were saying all this in build up that he was writing like a fiction about.
No, it's a journalist. It's a journalistic book, kind of gathering these things together with additional research and kind of pulling all of the threads together and weaving this overall narrative. And a lot of it, as you can probably tell from the name, the Fort Bragg Cartel, is about soldiers and like military affiliates selling drugs in and around Fort Bragg. But the most interesting parts of the book to me are he spends about 2 chapters going through the history of special forces in the United States and including JSOC and their kind of socio-political history. And basically what he outlines very briefly is that in the mid 20th century, the CIA had a really bad rap, right? If we think about like what J. Edgar Hoover was doing in the FBI and like things that were circulating around the CIA and like ops that they were doing in South America and around like anti-communism work. Like in the US, the tide started to turn on the alphabet agencies. And so what he traces is that the rise of special operations, special forces in the military corresponds because special forces are outside congressional inquiry. And so he traces some of that legislative history and some of that operational history to reflect on the ways in which special forces are basically doing the work that the CIA was doing overseas, except with literally no public oversight whatsoever. Not that the CIA had a ton, but any that existed is totally vaporized by the unique dynamics of special forces operations. And special forces operations are overseen in like only 2 steps away from the president, as opposed to having like the full military bureaucracy. Or the full like CIA bureaucracy that exists. So basically, the president's office can use it as like a private military force to do whatever it wants. And the history of those things and how it ties into particularly Iraq and Afghanistan, though there are discussions that extend outside of that, some discussions of Ukraine, for example. All of that was taking things that I had some knowledge of or some understanding of and really expanding on it. And because he is a veteran, he is great at explaining arcane, complex military shit to people that don't possess a lot of knowledge around those bureaucracies and operating procedures and all the slang and the hierarchy, understanding like what does it mean when they say someone's part of the 95th Civilian Battalion or whatever, or Civic Battalion, Civic Affairs Battalion. So I thought it was great. Also, they just announced that HBO is making a series out of it.
Oh, a documentary series or?
Unclear to me. It didn't say in the Deadline article that came out last week. I assume, and this is part of what I was kind of alluding to when you were talking about We Own the City, is I assume it's going to be in that vein.
That would be awesome. Get David Simon to do it.
Yeah.
He does do things outside of Baltimore. Yeah. He's just a Baltimore guy.
Yes, and Fort Bragg is in North Carolina. So, but yeah, I can't speak highly enough of it. And if it is something that interests you, he is like a frequent guest on Trinanon. Also, there are plenty of like previous episodes of that are not paywalled of him talking about his journalistic inquiries at that time. And also one of their more recent episodes was his book launch party, basically, where they interviewed him too. But if you're someone that is interested in understanding the operations of the power elite, how they connect to covert military action, and basically the US's unmitigated neo-imperialist march across the nation, or across the world rather, it's a very compelling book, and I highly recommend it.
Hell yeah. I'm going to add that to my Amazon book wish list. Oh. I mean, my regular wish list. No free plugs.
And then I just wanted to bring up 2 movies. So one of them is a new to me. This is not new. It is from 1993. is a martial arts flick called A Heroic Trio.
Cool.
Directed by Johnny Tu. It's about
Who's that?
He is directed like I think he's Taiwanese.
Okay.
I'd have to look that up.
Did you Best of the Best? Do you remember those?
I don't know, but I know that he is this is like his most, well, on Letterboxd, it's like his most searched for movie.
Okay.
I have not seen any of his other films, but I know that he is a martial arts director. Like that is his primary focus. But this movie, 2 of the 3, so it's about like 3 women who kick ass. The actual plot is not important other than to say it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But 2 of the 3 women are Maggie Chung.
Ooh.
And Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Michelle Yeoh is wearing one of the greatest outfits that I've ever seen in a movie throughout it. They kick ass. It's one of those that has like really sick practical effects. At the end, the villain skeleton comes out of his body and then curls around one of the characters to manipulate her.
Hell yes.
Just nonstop fun insanity. It's like if a Power Rangers episode was rated R.
Oh yeah, that is a cool outfit.
Yes, she's wearing like a red skin tight spaghetti strap bodysuit with red leather lace up knee high boots, and then this quilted ginormous red floor length jacket. It's awesome. She looks amazing in it.
It looks like it's quilted from like the stuff they make motorcycle jackets.
Yeah, just
from.
like all different red fabrics and leathers. And she's kicking ass while wearing that outfit.
Yeah.
I truly really it was a very fun movie. I liked it a lot.
My Amazon movie wish list.
I think that I definitely watched on streaming and did not have to pay to rent, but I can't remember. Just watch. Look it up on Just Watch. But really good time. And then the other one I wanted to bring up is a newer release last couple of weeks. I saw Caught Stealing. Darren Aronofsky's newest picture.
What you thought about that?
Did you see it?
I have not seen it.
Okay. So I'll lead in by saying this. I liked it. I had a good time while watching it. I will undoubtedly watch it again. Mm. So that's like a pretty, solid place to start. That said, I do not think it gelled all the way. Uh-huh. And I was not happy with the way Zoe Kravitz's character was written. Not like her ending in the film feels incredibly abrupt. And I'm not someone who's like, oh, Mary Sue, like don't fridge or whatever. Like it's fine. Characters die, including women characters. But it just felt like it was just like a slap in the face out of nowhere. Uh-huh. And it didn't have the weight intended behind her dying, like her being murdered. Like I was like, what? What are we doing? And then there's like an hour more of the film that happens and we barely are like reflecting back on that or having a tie into motivation. I do really like that baseball is a reoccurring theme. I think that's kind of an interesting,
Now you're getting me.
I think it's kind of an interesting way to draw out the main character's motivations. If only baseball didn't matter as much to him as his dead girlfriend. That for me is like where the writing is like a little off kilter.
Were the Yankees in the postseason though? Was he a Yankees fan?
No, he's a Giants fan.
Oh, does this take place in San Francisco?
No, it takes place in New York, but he is from
San Francisco.
Yeah, he's from San Francisco. Austin Butler is great in it. It does have kind of like Tarantino or like Scorsese-esque, like these kind of overlapping plotlines, bursts of violence that I do like as like a narrative tool. But it just, that final like 20% just does not hang together for me.
Aronofsky's always hit or miss for me. Where
it's definitely very unusual for his oeuvre. Like
that's what I was going to say.
It's very distinct.
Doesn't seem like it fits in. Maybe Requiem for a Dream, but just because they're both.
No, this is like in tone. But this part of my issue with it is like the tone of it is significantly lighter.
Okay. Yeah.
But it doesn't drop any of the violence. So it's not fully. I'm being hyperbolic here, but it's kind of doing like a Deadpool thing.
Cool.
And those are the aspects for me that it walks a really thin line, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But overall, like, positive feelings about it.
Can I talk about one other thing that I watched that I forgot? It's real bad, I think, but it is everywhere on the internet at this point. And I cannot remember the title to save my life. I've asked people a million times. It's got a really long title. I think it's something like Catfish High School. But this Netflix true crime
AI.
thing. I know that one is real. But have you seen this thing? Or do you know what the thing is that is like making the rounds?
Is this like the mockumentary, like the Dick mockumentary? Like, I'm
No,
saying, is it similar
documentary.
to?
No, it's a real documentary. And it's okay. It's not good. And now that it's like kind of gotten really popular, people are like digging into like how many manipulative things that the filmmakers did to hide the central secret of it. But while you're watching it, it is compelling, and it is, you can't not look. But it is this. For the first 45 minutes, I'm like, why is this a movie? Why did they make a movie about this? This seemed, and I still think that they should not have made this movie. Like, it is ethically like dubious to have made this movie. But this girl, this like high school girl, starts getting like threatening text messages.
So no, I have not seen the documentary. Yeah. But yes, I did read the Cut article when it came out, however many years ago, a year or two ago, whatever. So this. I'm familiar with the story because I read the article that the documentary is based on, and I did know that there was a documentary about it. I didn't know its title.
So she gets these messages like bullying her, like just with like really just like grade school like, you're ugly, you're a fat skank, your boyfriend hates you for 2 years. And then it's revealed that it's her mom that's been doing it the entire time. So
here's what I'll say. It kind of, when a friend told me, the reason I know that there's a documentary about it is because a friend and I were talking about it at some point in time, I think last week. And when the friend started describing it to me, I was like, oh, immediately, I know it's this article, right? And when I read the article 2 years ago or whenever it came out, I remember just getting like one paragraph or two paragraphs into it and being like, this is obviously this bitch's mother.
See,
and so it's insane that not only in a, let's say, 2,000 word or whatever, the Cut essay, that they can't bury the lead. But then to make a whole documentary about it, like, who else would it be?
Well, and that is like a lot of the criticism it's getting is that apparently like a ton of people in this small ass town were like, it's the mom doing it. And even the daughter suspected the mom.
The mom also like had a reputation of being like difficult to deal with, and she had all kinds of financial dealings that were really sketchy, and that she was hiding a bunch of debt.
She had like lost
from
her job
and
just
lost her job and was
bills.
lying about it.
Yeah.
So, and then people had some inkling as to all of that going on. So I think it's a wild story, but framing it as a gotcha.
And like a true crime whodunit is what it is.
Yeah.
Now,
as opposed to like inspecting the familial dynamics that would produce a situation like this. But I guess that's not sexy to Netflix.
Yeah, it's a bad documentary. But what really makes it wild is that she's in it, the mom, and she is like clearly has not come to terms with everything that she's done. And she is dumb as hell. Like, they're just, like, asking her questions, and she is talking in circles and, like, word salad sentences that don't make any sense. And it is just a blast to watch her try to talk about it. Because she is just, like, of a person in every question they ask her is crazy. Yeah, well, it's crazy.
I mean, it's also... frankly, in that context, like basically unethical, in my opinion, to enlist her to participate.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of like her daughter's
and the daughter
experience and well-being. Like, ugh.
And what is like really bad about it, and that's why I could tell. Like, I didn't know it was the mom. I didn't know anything about the story, but I knew something was fishy because you can always tell when documentaries are really bad because there's like clearly two sets of interviews with the daughter that like she's in high school, so like. Your appearance changes like fairly drastically in
pretty short
in like a year's worth of time. So like you could clearly see these two documentaries where she's like, you look a good bit older in this shot than you did in that one. So like they're clearly like going back and asking her questions that are like, well, these will be better after more of this information has come out or after we have filmed the interview with your mom or whatever. It's real shitty. But boy, was it a blast.
Is she still a minor?
If she's not, she's just barely not. Like she's like, she can't be older than 18 or 19.
And see, this is the thing. It's like that. either girl or young
think she's
woman
not.
was betrayed by the adult that she depended on most. And she's continuing to be betrayed by adults is like what's happening there.
Sure.
And which is
I think she is
upsetting.
in college. I think they say she's a freshman.
Okay.
But
well, I fucking hope she's going to school very far away from her psychotic mother.
Whew. Anyways, speaking of school, do we want to get into the current events?
Sure. Lead the way.
I will. So we live in Florida, and Florida is always at the forefront of doing like stupid, awful, but kind of hilarious things. So one of the hilarious things I want to talk about is our new Department of Education. Do they call them commissioners? The commissioners. I'm going to have to pull up his name to make sure that I say it. Anastasis Kometsis, who has done a series of funny things, one of which is now he's now made a policy that everybody at DOE has to stop at 9 o'clock in the morning and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And apparently over one weekend had a tech guy come in and change all of their desktop backgrounds to the American flag.
Government efficiency.
Yeah. But this is the one that really tickled me in that, because, every state DOE does this where they'll have like initiatives for schools to teach certain things to recognize like Black History Month or whatever. So for the upcoming Hispanic Heritage Month, which has been a thing for a while, he is offering a challenge to students to write essays about an impactful person of Hispanic heritage. And then the DOE site gives some examples.
I was going to say, is it like fucking Pinochet?
So here's some examples of, not quite that crazy, but very funny. So some of the examples of
Marco Rubio.
One is Ponce de Leon, and that's going to be the only somewhat normal one here. Yeah, I know. Yeah. The next one is Anastasios Komatasis. Camusas. The next one is Jeanette Nunez, the former lieutenant governor of Ron DeSantis. And the next three, Madeline Pumariega, Alex Rizzo, and Esteban Bovo are all DeSantis toadies that have government jobs in Florida.
Oh my God.
So the list of Hispanic people that students can write about is Ponce de Leon and then 5 DeSantis butt lickers. Which is awesome.
Not even little Marco.
Not even little Marco. Well, he's not. Hey, he went federal. He don't represent the state anymore.
He betrayed. He betrayed DeSantis.
But what about you? You got any hilarious current events you want to talk about?
I don't didn't do some like big write-up about this. I just want to say fuck RFK. Like,
yeah.
That hearing was incredibly upsetting, and talked about it before, that like calling out the hypocrisy of Republicans or really any political figure maybe has some expediency in the sense of like operating within the political like a liberal political dialogue. Like it might activate some liberals basically, but in general it's not a meaningful way to analyze what conservatives are doing, because the inherent contradiction embedded in their hypocrisy is the point. It is fundamentally part of conservatism, and it can't be extricated from conservatism. That said, what a fucking lying ass bitch. During his confirmation hearings, saying that the one thing that he was, I promise that I'm not going to remove access to vaccines for people. And what we saw immediately is the second that vaccines aren't recommended through the CDC, that of course insurance is not going to fucking cover it. And people have already reported, I've seen it in Tallahassee. I've heard it from people that I serve at the place where I work, that they're not able to access vaccines, that they are actively consensually seeking out, knowing the risk of fake autism. So fuck him forever, and fuck goddamn Ron DeSantis for removing requirements around vaccines. Children will fucking die because of it, and they won't care because they are engaging in removing, as rich people always have, removing their students' from the sites of threat. And so until their children are dying, it's not going to be real to them. So they're happy to have poor people's children die. Repeat ad infinitum forever and always. Fuck them. I'm mad.
Throw Joe Rogan in there too, coming back, because this week he said that vaccines.
It always goes back to Joe Rogan.
I'm just is part of it, and we brought him up that he said this week that vaccines cause autism on his stupid podcast. So, but he said it in a way of like, vaccines don't cause autism, like he was saying it like that, but he was straight up saying vaccines cause autism.
I just like the. Never mind. I'm just not. Yeah. Pieces of shit. I'm going to be real with you. Something that's confusing to me about this is like, I don't even necessarily understand what the like self-interest is in these things. Like in terms of like a power elite perspective, right? In a pure sense, we would expect that they would endorse it because pharmaceutical companies can make money off of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like in a most kind of baseline interpretation. I don't understand what they're getting out of this, but children are going to die. And I'm upset.
I think RFK is just like a lack of feeling significant in his meaningless life that he tied his horse to this stupid crusade.
Fucking Toad voice running Health and Human Services.
How do you get that?
Also, I will say something. Actually, I will mention.
Does he say the vaccines caused his voice thing? By the way,
no. But it'd be really funny if he did.
I would be really funny.
It kind of sounded like you're about to do an impression with that. Really funny. Honestly, that is how he sounds. It's crazy listening to the audio of this hearings. He's like arguing with Elizabeth Warren, and he sounds like a fucking shambling corpse. Like it's crazy. Yeah. It's vile. It's confusing. I think there's like obviously some theories that talk about like necropolitics, like some leftist political theories that talk about like necropolitics and the idea of defining like who is like literally worthy of life and who is not. But really, there's a lot of theories I find very compelling around arguments around surplus population, that in order to control the proletariat and continue to control the economy, you have to create these surplus populations, obviously, that can be used against each other in terms of like wage bargaining, but also in terms of creating competition for non-job resources. And I truly do not understand like what the game is here. Yeah. Just saying the same shit over and over again because I'm mad.
Ugh. Well, do we want to talk about our movies that we're here to talk about today?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we are continuing to talk about Augusto Pinochet, the fascist dictator of Chile. And today we're going to do a bit of a double feature. We watched two movies. We watched El Conde from Pablo Larrain, and then we watched the stop-motion animation film, The Wolf House. So we're going to talk about both. We'll start with El Conde. As we know, Augusto Pinochet, the ruthless right-wing dictator whose 1973 military coup wrestled control of Chile away from the democratically elected Salvador Allende, stepped down as Chile's president in 1990 and finally died of a heart attack in 2006. Pablo Larrain's acrobatic El Conde presupposes what if Pinochet never died, but instead was a centuries-old vampire. The central metaphor, anti-communist fascists as bloodthirsty vampires, is certainly not subtle, but viewing Pinochet's legacy as an undead monster still casting a shadow over Chile and all of South America is an apt entry point to understand just how detrimental Pinochet's coup and subsequent restructuring of Chile was to South America. To Pinochet's acolytes, his greatest achievements include transforming the economy and staunching the spread of communist doctrines in South America. El Conde wrestles with some of these accomplishments, because while Chile's economy saw a spike after Pinochet's coup, his embrace of a free market economy, courtesy of U.S. assistance in the form of Milton Friedman and the Chicago Boys, ultimately brought the middle class and lower class of Chile to their knees, as Pinochet and his cronies get rich. In El Conde, we see the undead Pinochet and his petulant adult children desperately trying to account for his riches spread throughout the world. And Pinochet's rise to power was next to impossible without covert nurturing from Western powers. In our previous episode, we discussed the U.S.'s cozy but tight-lipped relationship with the dictator. El Conde reminds us that it wasn't just America propping up the fascist bully. In 1998, the real Augusto Pinochet was arrested for international crimes against humanity while he was undergoing surgery in London. And it was no other than Margaret Thatcher who came to his defense, saying, I don't know when or how this tragedy will end. I wasn't going to last. Referring to Pinochet's arrest. But we will fight on for as long as it takes to see Senator Pinochet, who had stepped down as president at this point, return safely to his own country. The British people still believe in loyalty to their friends.
I have never learned something about Maggie Thatcher that moved the needle in a positive way. Ever.
Well,
like, it always goes to hell. It always goes straight to hell.
Because we know that just as America offered and received covert help from Pinochet, so did the UK. When the UK fought a 10-week war with Argentina in 1982 in the Falkland Islands, it was Pinochet who provided covert support to the detriment of the neighboring nation of Argentina. Lorraine's El Conde doesn't forget this either, as Margaret Thatcher herself appears in the film as another immortal vampire living off the blood of humanity. And while parts of El Conde, mostly the middle parts and stuff with all his kids, tend to drag a little bit, and the film is about as subtle as being thrown from a helicopter, the central analogy of fascist dictator as depressed, aged vampire is a macabre reverie to the pathetic and gruesome legacy of Augusto Pinochet.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the movie?
I will. So there's not a lot of like plot to it. It is essentially Pinochet kind of at the end of his life, although he is immortal, but is kind of decrepit, and he's gathered his children at his what is his estate, which is just like a desert farm ranch of kind of dilapidated buildings to kind of go through his estate essentially. And at the same time, a Catholic nun, has disguised herself as like a family accountant to help them and is there to perform an exorcist on the demon Pinochet. And he has like a loyal, I'm forgetting the name of the Dracula character that Tom Waits played. His Renfeld? His like Renfeld of types is Fyodor, this Russian that he brought in, who is honestly the funniest part of the movie. But I will talk about the things that I liked first off, which is the black and white monochromatic cinematography is like really beautiful, and the flying scenes are fucking incredible.
What do you think the function of shooting the film in black and white, or maybe not function, that was maybe too structured, not appreciating the artistry, but like what does that bring to
I think film? It's honestly, I think to me the biggest driving force of it seems to be just like evoking kind of like German expressionism of like old vampire Dracula stuff, and then it is just shot in a way that is very macabre, but also kind of like a weird like beauty and reverence to its subjects too. And like a reverence to the landscape around it, because I think some of the best shots are when Pinochet flies, which is like, it is awesome. Like, first off, I love that there is no build up to his flying in the movie. He's just like, when he wants to fly, he's like, and he's just off and going. And there's like these really beautiful sweeping like landscape shots of the camera over top of him, like going, and those are like the coolest parts. And then when, spoiler alert, but the nun that is there to kill him is turned into a vampire, and there's like a sequence of her learning to fly and is like not quite getting it, so she's flopping around in the sky a little bit, like sometimes gracefully and sometimes not, and it's just a sequence of her kind of like whipping around the like farm that's really awesome. So I really, really love just the look of the movie. I do think that it drags a lot, especially around the children of the movie, because most of it is just most of the action outside of Pinochet is the people in his life at this time, which are like his children that he's disconnected with, his wife who's having an affair with his like essentially butler, and a lot of that is like really boring and not bringing a whole lot to like the comedy of the movie, the horror of the movie, or the Pinochet of the movie, and I think that stuff drags a lot. Now, when it's revealed, because there is a major reveal in it, that it's being told in voiceover the entire time, like a woman's voice is talking about Pinochet's life, and it is revealed almost towards the end that the voice that's been telling the story is that of Margaret Thatcher, who is in fact Pinochet's mother, she was turned and impregnated by a vampire in France, and gave Pinochet to a orphanage to be raised in France.
Yeah, it was like, it's interesting that like a reoccurring theme is lack of strong family bonds, given like the Catholic roots, right? And this idea of like tradition and the nuclear family as the nucleus of a strong society. And then it's like all these people
just have disastrous
don't like their
family
kids,
lives.
have shitty marriages, are abandoned, etc.
Yeah. And I think like most of the movie, again, it is not subtle at all. And I feel like a lot of it is kind of working in fictionalizing and reworking like various aspects of Pinochet's life, and in the framework of how we know him as this, like dictator, tyrant, and like bootlicker of the rich and powerful. First off, he is like of French descent, and that's the setup to the movie, is that he was actually a French guy named Claude Pinochet when he became a vampire. And a bit that I love is that like he was like a Marie Antoinette super fan. Like that was when Marie Antoinette is beheaded when he is a child, and we see towards the end he keeps her head as a souvenir that he has like taken with him to Chile, and at the end has it like in a bottle that he like just pops her head out, which is great. But the part that I thought was the most fascinating in the way is like how it depicted the Catholic Church, especially like in relation to him, who they had like a fairly unsteady relationship, Pinochet and the church, who initially supported Pinochet and his initial rise against Allende, because obviously the Catholic Church is not going to be down with a socialist, but very quickly became his like staunch critics, I guess. And the movie, I think, reflects that as well, in the like tumultuous relationship he has with his nun, who's there under false pretenses that he kind of sees through almost immediately, and they have this like rocky relationship that turns sexual, but also like he ends up cutting her head off. So it's I think it is, most of the movie is a very not subtle metaphor for Pinochet's legacy and kind of his relationship with the broader world.
What about the Russians?
That's a great question, because I would say that that character is like, he's the funniest one. He's the one that's like his no nonsense like Renfield, who's also having sex with his wife behind his back, that Pinochet knows about, but is like, whatever. I'm not going to concern myself too much with it. But yeah, the Russians and Pinochet didn't have a like great relationship. Obviously, like he was super cozy with America, and he was, staunchly anti-communist. And I think that relationship between him and Fyodor, who's like a expat Russian who's come with him, who is extremely loyal to him, except when he's not, and ultimately he loses his head as well, is again, I think it is all just like, the movie is about as subtle as a Mack truck, but I do think there is like some comedy to be found in the way it like represents his relationships with foreign powers and entities. But I was gonna ask, have you seen any other Pablo Larrain stuff? Because I don't think I have at all.
What that name is vaguely familiar.
Am I wrong? But he did the Pope thing on HBO, right? The Young Pope.
The Young Pope? Yes, I did watch The Young Pope.
Yeah, which I like that. I didn't watch the
Jude
new
Law
Pope.
smoking a cigarette, drinking a Diet Coke as Pope.
Chasing a giraffe?
Yes, I am there. I am interested. A draft?
A giraffe. What is the animal that gets loose in the Vatican?
Yes.
It's not a giraffe, is it?
No. Fuck.
Like a rhino? It's some like huge animal.
Yeah. I don't recall. It's been a hot minute.
New Pope, animal.
Since I...
Oh wait, Young Pope on the loose.
The Young Pope.
Oh, it's a kangaroo. I just remembered. It's a kangaroo.
Kangaroos,
a kangaroo loose in the Vatican.
Side note, kangaroos are legitimately terrifying, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're strong as shit.
Yeah, and they're everywhere.
Wait, hold on now. Everywhere meaning what?
Like they
'Cause I've
are
not seen
like
one.
they are like raccoons in
Australia.
in Australia.
I was just saying, because if you're telling me that we've got a kangaroo problem right here in Tallahassee,
Oh
Florida.
yeah, I fucking knew it. I was thinking this. He also made Jackie,
Yes.
and Spencer, and also Maria. I have not watched Maria yet, but I
haven't
have seen
seen
Jackie and
Spencer,
Spencer,
but I
and they're
love
both
Jackie.
they're both quite good.
Yeah.
I really like. I mean, Spencer is very successful because the central performance in it is quite strong. But I think it's a good idea for a biopic to just take a very narrow slice of someone's life and focus on that instead of trying to make this like grand sweeping and make narrative sense out of someone's life, where oftentimes people's lives don't make narrative sense, and instead just focusing on like the emotionality and the experiential qualities of like a very specific set of experiences or time period, which is what is happening in Spencer with Princess Di.
And El Conde, if we're being honest, even though it's like a fictionalized version, but it is, again, just like a chunk of his life. Do you know what also you saying, talking about Jackie, made me think of this, that I should have mentioned earlier, but that Holocaust education workshop that I went to today.
I'm not laughing at Holocaust education. It's
that I'm connecting
the
it to this.
connection between that I'm like, interesting, can't
was
wait to hear.
put on by a woman named who runs several institutions that do like Holocaust education workshops, named Alexandra Zapruder, who is the granddaughter of Abraham Zapruder.
What?
Like one of her books is called 26 Seconds and is about like a history. She's a historian, a history of the Zapruder film that her grandfather shot. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is.
But yeah, that's El Conde. I think, Letterboxd is a 3-star for me. The parts that hit, beginning and end, a lot of drag in the middle. But I think the parts that hit are pretty good. And then Margaret Thatcher showing up is like, if it was teetering on a 2-star for me, the Margaret Thatcher of it all makes it worthwhile.
It's definitely one of those movies that is like kind of more interesting given the body of work that the director has otherwise created.
Yeah. And it is one that like it could be good. It's bloated. It's like hella bloated with like first off, there's 5 kids, like 5 of his adult children, like which I think is in real life he did have a bunch of kids.
Yeah,
but like for the movie, make that one
right
and cut down on some of the
it's
fat
like,
here.
Even
and
like Iron Claw, they cut out some of the brothers.
Yeah,
you don't. It does not have to. It can be accurate to the feeling of real life without being accurate to real life.
And I think that like maybe
also it's a fucking vampire movie. He's a goddamn vampire. It does not have to be accurate.
And it doesn't have to be like relatable to an audience, because I feel like partly the reason we see so much of the like kids is the like thinking that like, well, we need a human character to relate to, like the average person to relate to. And it's like we know these tropes. It's a vampire movie. You don't need to go the extra mile. Just like show us like the funny version of the tropes we already know.
You don't have to relate to Pinochet's kid. It's okay.
Right, yeah.
It's all right.
But I think one that I definitely liked a little bit more is The Wolf House. Do you want to tell us about The Wolf House? Now, push to explain it might be a little bit tougher for me. But the look of it is cool as hell.
Yeah. So we also watched The Wolf House 2018, a stop-motion animation film directed by Cristobal Leon and Joaquín Cociña, which fictionalizes a real-life Chilean-German religious colony that abused children and provided cover for junta violence. So before we talk about the movie, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history and conspiracy, because you know me, behind this viewing.
This is all stuff I did not know very much about.
Yeah, so I will say like this, it's kind of an interesting thing about this movie is it provides almost no background on like what it's actually talking about. And I think it kind of leads to different interpretations. Yeah. To be honest.
What Hal's about to say is not in the movie per
at
se.
All. Yeah,
it is
at all. Now there are things that are analogized or made into metaphor that you can absolutely see the links. But if you don't know any of this historical context, I do think you get things that are adjacent but not the same out of
that was me. I didn't know much about it, and I looked up some of it afterwards, but I still think even not knowing the like historical elements, it is still a like wild watch as like a
yes, it is for sure worth watching because of its animation style.
And it is just like it's just like a dark fairy tale too. So even if you don't know much about it, you can at least like go along for the ride of like a weird fucked up fairy tale.
So Colonia Dignidad was founded 220 miles south of the Chilean capital, Santiago, by Paul Schaefer, an accused pedophile and medic who worked in a German field hospital in Vichy, France, aka he was a Nazi.
Not David Letterman's sidekick. Not
No,
the same
correct.
Paul Schaefer.
Yes. Different guy, as far as we know. I'm joking. In the 1950s, he aimed to flee Germany due to abuse allegations, of course. And he was approved through official channels to open a Baptist ministry in Chile. At its height, 300 people resided in the colony. Externally, it was intended to exemplify German efficiency and the principles of community. The compound included a hospital marketed as providing locals free care. The colony had nonprofit status due to the medical treatment facility and its religious affiliation. Though its gates read Benefactora Dignidad, charitable dignity, the charity simply acted as a cover. It effectively functioned as a cult wherein forced labor was a common practice and children were separated from their parents and sexually abused. It was surrounded by fences, barbed wire, and floodlights, so it also looked like a prison camp. Rumors that the site was used to disappear state enemies under the Pinochet regime and that Nazi medical experimentation and torture techniques, including the use of electroshock machines that were imported from Germany, were recognized as early as 1976 by a UN body and later substantiated by the Chilean National Commissions for Truth and Reconciliation. 300 people, at least, were interrogated in the compound's underground tunnels by DINA, that's Pinochet's secret police, if you don't remember from last time, and at least 100 people died there. To be clear, died there in those tunnels, like not even just like people who happen to be living there, right? Passing of natural causes. Contemporary investigations unveiled that the main doctor associated with that hospital in the colony was affiliated with DINA and had also no formal training in medical care. Search of the property in the mid-2000s revealed a mass grave from which bodies had been removed and stockpiles of grenades, rifles, and other weapons. Why did this happen? To quote Cabaret, money makes the world go round. In the last decade, Professor Stefan Rinke conducted life history interviews of survivors of the colony. This research was financed by the German parliament in coordination with German and Chilean universities. He found that Colonia Dignidad's persistence was attributable to a network of factors, blackmail, and protection of common interests in both countries. Germany has had ties to Chile since the 1848-1849 diaspora from Germany and engaged in back and forth military and police training with Chile since at least 1885. West Germany supported Pinochet, including a West German Secretary General saying in 1973 that the junta was treating prisoners who were in that soccer stadium properly. Researcher Catherine White, in a 2021 article, says that 4 groups were involved in the perpetration of the colony. 1, West German diplomats and statesmen in Bonn and Santiago who protected them. Some of this was a function of transactional relationships with the embassy, whereby the colony hosted diplomats, gave them food from the colony farm, and did manual labor on their behalves. Also, the domestic West German regime believed that foreign aid should be dispersed through Christian charity, which provided additional cover. 2, DINA, of course, right? Pinochet's secret police. 3, the German settlers and quote-unquote former Nazis who lived there and visited. And 4, international arms dealers, such as the famed former Nazi paratrooper Gerhard Mertens, who used the site in smuggling schemes to bypass the international arms embargo, because there was an international arms embargo against Pinochet, right? The power elite coalesce around protecting their interests, regardless of how perverse the consequences are. When you do bad shit, you get embroiled in other people doing bad shit. And then the network of mutually constituted malignant success and mutually assured destruction throbs. A bunch of symbiotically parasitic freaks, like in the movie Society that we previously covered, except this isn't a movie and real children were assaulted. We obviously know some of this particular reign of terror, little r, little t, ended. So where are they now? A combination of Pinochet's waning power and the mounting child abuse allegations seem to have caught up to the colony. The name changed to Bavarian Villa in 1991. Schaefer fled Chile in 1997, was arrested in Argentina in 2005, and died in prison, thank God, at a prison hospital in 2010 at the age of 88. Lived too long. According to the BBC, in 2019, Germany recognized some culpability and agreed to pay $11,000 each to the surviving victims. And as a brief side note, the international arms dealer, Gerhard Mertens, who was hiding weapons in that den of depravity, well, his son went on to be an arms dealer too and created United International Supplies, a firm involved in the Iran-Contra scandal, and who in 2017 had some of their weapons found with ISIS fighters. Isn't it funny how it's the same fuckers fucking us in every decade? Anywho, let's talk about processing this through art by way of the Wolf House.
Yeah.
So in the Wolf House, it is framed, like Craig said, it's like a dark fairy tale, but it's framed as a propaganda film from the cult running Colonia Dignidad. And Maria, our prime subject, is trapped in a home due to the fear of the lurking threat of a wolf outside of the compound. She finds 2 pigs and ushers them inside. And then there's this kind of like fairy tale framing where the pigs become children named Pedro and Anna.
That spoke to me. Children as little pigs.
My favorite is when the pigs get hands, but otherwise don't transform further. Like, creepy.
Well, there's so much of this movie that's so creepy.
Yes. And Maria, after the pigs show up and she names them, they start to convert into children. She occupies a maternal role and starts to take up the mantle of teaching them how to be good children and give them dignity and make sure that they're shielded from the wolf, which is this external threat that's used to compel obedience. You want to talk about the visual style a little?
Yes. Because it is awesome. First off, it is stop motion, but stop motion in like 5 or 6 different mediums all happening at once. So there's like painting and drawing, and then like, I guess, paper mache sculptures and sculpting that are all happening, and they're flowing in this way that is like as if the camera almost never stops. So like there are cuts, obviously, it's stop motion, but like it's shot in a way that is like everything is constantly moving and like evolving and changing into the next scene or whatever. And then my favorite part is like there's this kind of deconstruction of the stop motion where when a scene is changing, you will see the like pieces of the model like kind of like slowly form and kind of rise up onto them. So like it'll start with just a head and then the framing, and then like the pieces will come onto them and then deconstruct and fall off and turn into something else. But yeah, the stop motion in this is crazy, and the art is just like out of this world cool.
Yeah, it's basically everything is constantly being made and unmade. Yeah. And my favorite visual moment is very early on where Maria is depicted as a caged bird, and candles kind of continually sprout up on the ground under her in this almost like frenetic ritual. And there are moments, I will say, which I don't know if has ever been true for me. I guess part of the Faust, the stop motion animation, some of that is a little haunting. But there are moments in this that are freaky, in my opinion, like that are actively a little scary. Like there's one part where everything gets like smudged out and everything like kind of like black charcoal is almost appearing on everything, and there's like screaming. And I was like, okay,
it's like
I watched this kind of late at night.
Yeah, and it's just it's unsettling throughout.
Yes,
and
a fire breaks out. That's what it is. Yeah. There's like a fire that breaks out, and it's quite menacing, I would say.
And the part that creeped me out every time is like we always talk about the deconstructing the stop motion, but it was always the hands that would come last. So like most of the person would be formed, and then they'd lift their arm and there'd be no hand, and then from across the table a hand would just like slither across and reattach, and yeah, just uncanny and weird and creepy in the best possible ways.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that it's essentially all confined into the same space. And so this making and unmaking is just consistently evolving one environment.
Yeah.
And so after we see Maria takes takes the piggies, and she is essentially adopting the responsibility of, you know, disciplining them and ensuring that they are raised correctly and are fearful of the outside world. We see that Pedro and Anna's conversion continues, and they mutate eventually into blonde, pliant, perfect children. Yeah, they turn German. And
the
then
honey pouring is so gross. Oh, there were so many nasty noises in this too. Oh,
there's also like a lot of whispering. There's a lot of like wispy voiceover.
When the like stuff is moving, like there's a lot of like like just
skittering.
My wife was like walking back and forth, and multiple times was like, "Oh." Just like stopping to be like, what? And then like other points where she's not even in the room, she's just hearing the like sounds and going, ugh. So there was a lot of like groaning and moaning just from the passing by, which.
And then we see that these like perfect, you know, blonde German children, whatever, begin to conspire against Maria. And start to withhold food from her and lock her in the house, even when she decides that she wants to leave. And it's now the children who retort that it's too dangerous to go outside, which Maria had been telling them as they were going through their conversion process. And so Maria turns to the wolf, who she has previously been afraid of, for protection, and she is transformed into a tree.
Hell yeah.
And we learn that she has regained from the voiceover that again is being done from the perspective of the colony and the colonists. We learn that she's regained her helpful spirit, and she's eager to ask if she can care for you. So she's been rendered literally immobile by nature of being a tree, and is back enlisted in maintaining the colony, and it's like perfect fiction.
It was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Punchy too. We're coming in on an hour and 10 minutes. You hear that, El Conde? You hear that? 2 hour El Conde? Trim some of that fat. But it was a movie that was like uncanny is a great word for it, because again, I didn't know a lot of the background of this, and it is so much of it is like you get the hints and the framing of the like a propaganda movie, but so much of it is just this like weird, like perverse Brothers Grimm nightmare of a fairy tale that it's just unlike anything I think I've seen before.
Yeah, and I would say like the dominant theme of it is that a coercive power that makes you afraid of that which is exogenous is a problem, right? Like the idea of like it's all about staying inside the house, not being exposed to external forces, not engaging in independent thinking. Like all of that is curtailed.
Unseen external forces too, because I don't believe we ever see.
No, we don't see the wolf ever. We just Maria is telling us that there's a wolf and telling the children that there's a wolf, and it's clear that she was told that there was a wolf, not that she's necessarily engaged it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up our discussion of these two films, I'm going to talk a little bit about horror as a genre, as being useful for analogizing fascism. So let's do a little bit of synthesizing and pondering. Here we've taken up two different films that use horror genre conventions to dig into different aspects of the terror of Pinochet's rule. What can horror facilitate? Meaning, what can it communicate in terms of depicting a fascist regime and its consequences? Where does it fall short in capturing a historical moment or relaying a political analysis? What do you think? You have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, well, I think for like El Conde, it's just so perfectly fits into like a bunch of already established horror tropes that the metaphor just kind of carries itself pretty easily. And I also think that like Dracula and vampires is a pretty like apt horror trope to assign to a fascist, anyways. Like kind of just the idea of like appealing to certain traditions and ways of existence and those kind of things. Now, as far as the Wolf House goes, I don't even know where the horror like conventions start and end in that movie, because it is unlike anything I think I've seen before, and there are times where like the being creeped out kind of sneaks up on you, and I don't even think I realized how creepy it was. So that one is a bit harder for me still to wrap my head around on like even what some of the horror elements of it are that are, I don't know, almost recognizable because it's so in a world of its own as far as trying to classify it as anything. I don't know. I feel like I was talking in a circle, but that movie is an enigma, I think, and one that I like a lot, but I don't. I still think we'll wrestle with it for a while because it's so strange and uncanny and unsettling.
Yeah, it is definitely, as folks in literature analysis say, a rich text. Right?
It is very. I was about to say that about how rich the text was.
So I'll say briefly on El Conde and what you mentioned about the vampires. I think something that's interesting and is useful for talking about fascism or understanding it through art is the way, as you described, El Conde is kind of making these historical connections, right? Mm-hmm. It's seeing threads that tie together at different points in time across history, right? He has these relationship or connection to Marie Antoinette, and he literally, vampires are immortal, right? And fascism both internally is making its own propositions about the meaning of history and the ways we should reflect it in contemporary times. But also we know that part of the emergence of fascism is that it is essentially like a zombie of what has happened before. The
emergence and reemergence, right. And then reemergence and then reemergence.
Right. Yeah, so I think that vampire is an interesting, useful tool. And then on the Wolf House, I'll say Colonia Dignidad is emblematic of how under fascism, violence pervades all levels of society, from the interpersonal to the political. And so we know, right, in terms of not what's in the movie, but thinking about the history of it, that children were being molested at the same site where Dina was disappearing dissidents. The lack of dignity is totally comprehensive. And so this making and unmaking that's embodied in the visual style, I think is an interesting way of trying to capture kind of the bleed between reality and fiction, and the bleed between what's in the house and what's outside of the house, and the bleed between the different people that are embodied within it. Just that boundaries are not firm, and the permutation of those boundaries is a fundamental part of fascism. And then also I would say fascism is a project that necessitates myth making. And so capturing that in this fairy tale approach, I think is very, really putting a real fine point on it, right? The idea that fascists are creating their own little stories to tell themselves and to tell other people about why they're doing what they're doing and why it's justified. Yeah. And that's literally what the movie is doing.
Same, I guess, with El Conde too, the myth making aspect of it. I think it's just more turned on its head, where it's what if we take this really notorious trope, but he's just a pathetic old fuck at this point, and it's kind of inverted, but yeah. Hell yeah.
Well.
Well.
Looks like we've reached the end of our discussion.
We're not too different, you and I.
But we're very different from fascists.
Yes.
And also vampires, even though some vampires are cool. Not this vampire.
We kind of started doing the Jay-Z. Vampires, fascists, zombies. What's our next movie? I think we have one more in Pinochet's. Maybe TBD.
Let's say TBD.
Let's say TBD, and we'll figure it out. But yeah, this was a fun one, and we will get you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.